What's up, everybody? Welcome back to your favorite New York Jets subscription podcast, Badlands. I'm your host, Joe Caporoso. Super quick Wednesday night emergency podcast. The New York Jets are starting to build out their staff for Aaron Glenn, making their first major hire with Steve Wilks as their new defensive coordinator. This is a rumor. This is a move that's been rumored really since the moment Glenn was hired. One of the first names we've heard kicked around. It is now official. A move that I think, like many Jet fans, is going to be highly approved of by me. And the reason why is that Glenn is a first time head coach. He's been very clear he's not going to call the plays, not be the defensive coordinator, so he could focus on being the head coach, which, if you're a Jet fan, that's music to your ears. That was a problem that got to Rex Ryan. That was a problem to an extent with Todd Bowles, was certainly a problem with Robert Saleh, where you always kind of felt like they were a little too siloed just to still being the defensive guy or the defensive coordinator, even if it wasn't in name. With this, you have a guy who is extremely experienced, has been kind of everywhere. And if there's one sort of negative or red flag, it's that why does he seem to wear out his welcome so quickly everywhere? This is a guy who has been with a wide range of college teams, a guy who has coached for Washington, for the Bears, for the Chargers, for the Panthers, left the Panthers to become the Cardinals head coach, went to the Browns, went back to the Panthers, was the interim Panthers head coach, and most recently was with the San Francisco 49ers as their defensive coordinator, ironically, where Robert Saleh is now the defensive coordinator. So quite a ride, a guy with head coach experience, a guy who is fully capable of being able to run the defense and take that off Aaron Glenn's plate. I think it's critically important that they have a very experienced voice and leader on each side of the coaching staff to, again, let Glenn focus on just being the head coach. I think on the offense, that's likely going to be a guy like Todd Haley, who won't be the offensive coordinator, but could work with a younger guy like a Tanner Engstrand. I got to work on my pronunciation here at the end of the long day, who seems to be likely to be the offensive coordinator. I don't think that becomes official to the weekend, but the wind seems to sort of be blowing in that direction. The Jets did add to their offensive staff today with a lower tier hire, bringing in Lions tight end coach Steve Hayden to coach their offensive line. So no more Keith Carter. It's not the most unconventional thing in the world to see a tight end coach move to being an offensive line coach. And I don't know. It just feels like that's a precursor to our guy Tanner getting hired, who, it's funny because everyone was high on him initially. Then Caley's name got tossed around. Everyone got focused on him and got a little more sour on Tanner. I'm calling him by his first name because I got to get in the rhythm of pronouncing Engstrand consistently. I'm just going to call him Tanner if and when the Jets hire him. But from a resume standpoint, I think you're equal odds of him being as successful as Caley. I think with Hayden, Jet fans are just happy Keith Carter's gone, and that's a move that has happened already. I don't think anyone has a problem with that. Maybe a less popular one is Aaron White-Cotton leaving for the Dallas Cowboys. I think White-Cotton, one of the more popular position coaches here, been some pros, the development of Will McDonald, the development of Jermaine Johnson before his injury, been some cons. The Jets' defensive line was an undisciplined mess this year. Penalties, no gap integrity. They didn't really get anything from any of their undrafted free agents. Kinlaw was a mess. Clemens was a mess, never developed in any way, although I don't blame White-Cotton for that. So, I think they'll be fine is what I'm saying. And I don't think it's surprising that Glenn is going to want a completely fresh staff after what happened to that defense last year. And we'll probably allow Wilks to go build that staff with some input from him. With Wilks, again, of course, I understand some of the concerns about bouncing around a lot, although that's not crazily uncommon for NFL assistants. But the head coaching experience, where it kind of feels like he got a raw deal both times, I think he did a particularly good job with the Panthers in 2022 when he stepped in as the interim head coach. And this is a guy who's been a defensive pass game coordinator, a secondary coach, has been an assistant head coach before, of course, has been a head coach. And it's been just in a lot of different places at a lot of different levels. So I think, that degree of experience should be comforting for Jet fans. I don't know if we get the full offensive staff by the weekend, but I feel like probably by Saturday, all this is tied up as Senior Bowl and Senior Bowl week comes to an end. So I think if you're a Jet fan, you're not surprised that White-Cotton moved on. I think he was a good but not great position coach based on the results. I think you're expecting Tanner to become the next offensive coordinator by this weekend. We know Hayden is the new offensive line coach. It's hard to imagine him not being some version of an upgrade over what they were getting from Keith Carter in recent years. And then we'll see the rest of that staff come together. Do you get an experienced voice like Todd Haley, who is, who joins the staff? Is he the quarterback coach? Is he just an offensive assistant? Do they hire a separate quarterback coach? What do they do with a guy like Sean Jefferson as the receiver coach? We still need to see who's going to be the new special teams coordinator as Brant Boyer is gone. Hopefully we get that this weekend. Maybe that ends up being Banjo, which has been rumored for a while. Don't think they're going to get Rizzi, which would have been fun. But overall, for the Wilks emergency pod, one that we've been talking about for about a week and a half, I feel like, and I'm glad it's officially over the line now for them, because I think it was important that Glenn made it abundantly clear that he was not going to call the plays, not be a glorified defensive coordinator, and a hire like this veteran, this senior, I think is a way to really put an exclamation point on that. So it's a tough one to complain about. No resume is perfect when you're hiring a defensive coordinator, but it seems like they're going to have a first-time offensive coordinator. They're going to have a first-time head coach. They're going to have a first-time general manager. They're going to have a first-time offensive line coach. So getting a really experienced defensive coordinator seems like a very smart thing. And I am sure Wilks will be a version of an assistant head coach as well. I think this one will be pretty well received. Glenn's also bluntly in his honeymoon phase where everything is going to be well received. And these are initial reactions. I think what we'll do is we'll kind of take a deep breath, ingest all of these guys and these moves that they make, and take a deeper dive into their resumes and their scheme and what it's going to mean for the Jets defense in practice. I'm sure Dan is chomping at the bit on Buck the Trend to go through what this means for the Jets defensive line, what this means for how they handle Sherwood and Quincy Williams. We're also going to have a draft season hit a little later tonight where Meeks and Dalbin, beyond the draft, we'll talk about this as well and maybe how it impacts some of the Jets draft plans, because defense is very much on the board at number 7, whether that's Mason Graham, whether that's him going cornerback. I don't think Abdul Carter is going to be there. Unfortunately, I think he'll go pretty comfortably before 7. So more to come on all these guys, but top line, you're getting a very experienced defensive coordinator, a guy that I think will be a valuable sounding board to Glenn because he's had head coach experience in 2 different places. And that, you can't replace that. He's actually been in the seat a few times. And I think that will be helpful to Glenn as this unit and this job comes together for him. So curious to see how the rest of the staff is rounding out, but defense, like top to bottom, I'm expecting an entirely different unit. I think it's going to kind of be the same everywhere. And you won't hear as much about some of the front office changes for a bit, but the coaching changes I think are going to move fast and furious now with the first couple dominoes today, with Hayden joining, White Cotton leaving, Wilks now being in here. And a good start for Aaron Glenn. Like it's a good, strong hire for him to be able to go get someone that established who would have gotten a job elsewhere if he didn't come here, I think, in relatively short order. And we'll look more at his scheme as we get into the weekend and as we get into next week. Doing a quick scroll through here to see if I missed any Discord questions. I believe we're all caught up, but keep them coming in as there'll be a few more pods that hit between now and Sunday. Kind of spread between all of us. These weeks are a little bit of a free-for-all because there's so much news, but absolutely look out for a draft season and Buck the Trend, and then something from Connor and Will down at Senior Bowl as they settle into getting back. And then we finish recording Streets of Fire, which is going to premiere on February 10th. So excited to have that in, and generally happy and excited with this move. A proven coach. So also, as I'm recording this right now, it does seem like the Jets are getting close to having Chris Banjo be their new special teams coordinator, coming over from the Broncos. Not surprising, considering his history with the Jets GM. So real-time news. Thank you, Izzy, for hitting at everyone in the Discord. The Jets badly needed to upgrade their special teams coordinator spot. It's been a long run for Boyer. There's been some good years. There's been some bad years. Last year, man, was a really bad year. Stubbornness in the return game, stubbornness with how they use their gunners like Herb Charles. It was time to make a change. And Banjo, outside of Rizzi, has been a long sort of rumored name. And will step into the coordinator gig, and guessing exactly how a special team coordinator is going to be is guessing. But they needed a new voice. I feel like Boyer's been. I know it's only been. I think it's been 8 or 9 years. I feel like Boyer's been here like 25 years. I'm glad they've made a change, and I just hope they bring some new energy and new thought to the return game and some better innovation, and are really ambitious at trying to improve kicker. And I think as you're seeing now, these things kind of come in bunches. We need news. Glenn can't build a staff. And okay, now you got Wilks. Now you got Banjo, 2 guys who I think were pretty sought after. You got your new offensive line coach. I think we're going to get word on Tanner within the next day or two. I think you probably get word on Haley. And then I think you'll have a couple other pieces that round it out. So good moves for the Jets staff so far. I think encouraging to see sort of this cleaning out of what they had previously, and they're getting to work here. And it'll be good. Again, I'll say this one more time just because the Banjo news just broke. It'll be good to have just a fresh POV on special teams. That was sneakily a reason that the Jets lost an extra like 2 or 3 games last year, not just all on Zerline. They were just bad in coverage, bad in the return game, a lot of dumb penalties, a recurring theme to the stuff I was saying about the defensive line. So coaching staff coming together, new day for the Jets. Thank you everyone for listening. We'll talk to you soon.